So this morning I was up at 4 a.m. practicing for this stage, and my phone started to ring. It was from one of my friends, my longest friend in the States. He's been in and out of hospitals last few years with rare form of leukemia. And he was calling me this morning to let me know that he was just informed that he's got 1 more week. He really likes music, so he used to come to many of my shows. We would go to club. He's into techno music. We would dance together. And I'm thankful for this community today that allows me to feel safe enough to acknowledge that I'm not very okay right now. And it feels like there's something more pressing to share than this prepared talk, but I'm not confident enough to improvise a whole new talk. So I decided to stick to this presentation I had prepared for you today. And I'm gonna give my best. But I wonder, for the next 15 minutes or so, if I could ask for your support. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we had our final conversation this morning. We just said goodbye to each other 6 hours ago. It's tough. Two years ago, I was invited to speak at the first Endwell Symposium to share my experience as a sound artist who spent time in hospitals as a patient disturbed by noise, and how I used to wonder if the last sound I get to hear would be just like this. Lying on a bed, I used to close my eyes and daydream. Soothing sound, more peaceful, gentle sound. As I wave my hand around like a magic. Some people say hearing is the last sense to go when we die. So what is the last sound that I get to hear at the end of my life? Is it the sound of ocean waves? Or is it the sound of lullaby? The sound that I have never heard of, that I have never imagined before. Or is it the first sound I remember at the beginning of my life? illness happened several years ago, I used to make a list of things to do because I used to be a type A. List of doctors to see, list of medicine to take, herbs and supplements to try, list of tests to take, list of books to read about my condition, list of different modalities of therapy, list of special diets. And I was convinced that once I get to cross all of the things on my list, my symptom will be gone and I will get back to my normal life again. And things didn't quite happen that way. As I was getting more desperate, one of the clinicians told me, maybe the next thing you will put on this to-do list is to be okay with the idea that maybe you don't get to cross anything off of this list today. The next thing on this list is to feel safe with the idea that you may not get better. To feel safe. What I didn't realize up until that point was, and I don't even know if it makes any sense to you, I have never quite known how to feel fundamentally safe about anything in general in life. This crisis in my health allowed me to see something that I didn't even know I was missing out the whole life. Like feeling safe is feeling human. And I think about this more and more with everything I do lately. An illness has a way of shaking up our core. So even when I started to get better rather unexpectedly, my life never returned to what I considered to be normal. Because this part of my life right now feels like a lucky bonus. It's not normal that I kind of get to do anything now. Like trying to transform the sound environment in hospitals. 2 years ago, I shared the beginning of this journey to think about sound experience in hospitals. And people often ask me what happened to those ideas since then. So I like to take some moment to share updates with you, if that's okay. So since then, there are a number of curious designers and engineers from medical device companies who started to reach out for conversations. And we started to collaborate with some of them to create more considerate sound for machines, ranging from a classic home care heart monitor for people who are really not into technology, all the way up to a brand new medical device that has never existed before for the people who are really into technology. And I love this wide range of extreme opportunities that give us, widen our spectrum of empathy. I also got to visit headquarters of medical device manufacturers to share stories of patients, caregivers, clinicians, their experience with sounds. The most disturbing sound they remember hearing, the last sound they like to hear, and the last sound these German engineers wish to hear. They said, we usually have speakers here who talk about numbers and metrics, but we never had an artist in our building talking about emotions. And for me as well, I have never into a building where machines are being put together by actual humans. I somehow had this idea those machines somehow come out of other machine, but they're actually humans. Just like you and I who are behind those machines. So I suppose that day, their users, I suppose, became a bit more humans. But they, the makers of those machines, they also became humans to me as well. And it was the beginning of rather unexpected friendship that really started to grow profound in my ear. I also discovered that there is often not an easy way for people who actually have to hear those sounds, those beeps and bloops every day. You know, people in front line, for them to participate and have a say in the design process of those alarms. And many of them even say things like, I never felt I had permission to even say I don't like those sounds. So to me, this design challenge with alarms, it's not really a technology problem. It's really more of an inclusion issue. And I think it's important that we consider not just the functionality and safety of these alarms, but the subjective experience of everyday people and how these sounds affect us. But for those people to participate in the design process and share freely their emotions and feelings, the process needs to make them feel safe. So the design process needs to be fun and playful. So we decided to call this participatory design process Beepers and the Beeped. Beepers are people who make beeps. And the beeped are people who get beeped by things. What if we connect them with empathy? Have you been annoyed by beeps? What if you can lead the change? Join the conversation. Yeah. So, you get to press these buttons and hear the sound of alarms today. And you get to answer questions like, how do these sounds make you feel? Or if you could change these sounds, what would you make different? So we'll start with simple questions like, what sound did you wake up to this morning? And we hear these sounds and we brainstorm together the future of hospital soundscape. And this was a lot of fun, so we took the process on the road to bunch of beep. And even more beeped people, the younger ones. And different institutions of lots of different stakeholders of the beeped. And our beepers friends. And lots of beepers is a little beeped. So Beepers and the Beeped is a participatory design framework in which people who design medical design alarms and people who actually have to hear them get to have human conversations. Thank you. Thank you. Right? Simple, right? So that these sounds are not only safe and functional, but also sensible, kind, and respectful for the most vulnerable times of our lives. So now we are speaking to a group of passionate and caring engineers and designers who are involved in one of the most widely used medical devices. And we just discovered that these sounds that we still hear in many of the hospitals and ICUs today were actually created in this beautiful cassette tape in 1981, before even many of them were born, and the sound never got changed since then. And I often think of moments in life that these sounds must have surrounded last 40 years. Moments of lives being saved, lives getting lost, and new lives being born. And I think of all the people who served in healthcare for decades, walking alongside these sounds. So to change these sounds into all of a sudden something completely different, because they are so used to those sounds now, it's not only unsafe, it's just not compassionate. We have to do it with people, and not just focus group of some 20 people, but with hundreds of people who represent diversity of our experience from NICU to palliative care unit. We should involve patients and caregivers. We should involve people from other countries. And we should do it together. And it's going to be the beginning of the transformation of the sound environment. So I hope you get to join our growing family of beepers and the beeped next year. And I hope we get funding to be able to do it. Thank you.